Please spare my life. If you kill me, it will hurt my mother. I am an only child. Please, I will give you anything. Spare my life, please.
He pleaded with the desperation of a cornered prey, but all his tears and appeal fell on deaf ears. There was no escape from this. Not even the FBI could rescue him from the drawn guns and cutlass pointed at him. Today is his doomsday, and even if he drowned in his own tears, it still won't save him from his determined assailants.
Okay, you sabi say you be only child, now you go join court, they fight war with us. You think say na child's play we dey play here? He who plays the drum of the gods must be ready to dance to their tune. Today is the day you meet your ancestors. Fearless, shooter. Bobby, I say shooter.
Koboko said, as he ordered Fearless to shoot him. Shoot Am! I say shoot Am na abi you know they hear word? Abobi, I say shoot this man now! Koboko continued to scream at Fearless until he finally pulled the trigger, letting the bullet loose into the chest of their prey. It was as if he froze in time and could see the bullet move in slow motion, piercing through the heart of their prey and snatching the life off him. This was the first time he had killed someone. He has now taken another person's life, and there was no going back from this. His heart pounded like a war drum as they fled the scene, living his lifeless body there for the vultures. You're watching The Fearless Cultist, a story by UmehWrites. That night, Alfred, aka Fearless, could not sleep. He couldn't believe he was now a murderer. If someone had told him a few months ago that he would be a high-ranking cultist, he won't believe it. Nor would he have believed that he had now moved on to be a thief and now a murderer. Everything was moving so fast. A few months ago, he was just a regular student at the university. But now, he is not only hanging out with the most dangerous guys on campus, but has also become very dangerous. For 4 years, he had been low-key in this school. As a law student, his focus was to graduate with first class, get called to bar, and work in a reputable law firm. But the peer pressure and intimidation on campus was just too much. From being called a Jew by boys, he knows he could break their bones in a second, to being intimidated by cultists on a daily. Alfred knew he had the potential to be a bad boy, but he didn't want to ply that path. But almost everyone he knew was as either a cultist or a prey to cultists. So he decided that since he couldn't beat them, he would join them. He was in his final year when he finally bent to pressure and joined them. In his mind, he said, "It's just for a year. After I graduate, I'll leave all this behind me." But little did he know that once he steps foot into that arena, there was no going back. The night of his initiation was very brutal. It was as if their intention was to beat him to death. As they chanted cultist songs around a burning fire, smoked, drank alcohol, and conducted the initiation process, Alfred began to remember how his parents had warned him not to indulge in any activity that would not make them proud. But here he was, a sweet boy in the bush being initiated into a dangerous cult. 2 days after the initiation, his first task was to give intelligence for an ongoing robbery. His cult group was robbing a hostel, and he was to stay outside and be on the lookout for any security or trespassers. As he stood there in the cold, hearing screams and gunshots inside, he wondered what would happen to him if he was caught and sent to jail. Almost 5 years in the university would just go for nothing. Suddenly, he saw a guy running out of the hostel gate, so with a quick reflex, he used the rod he held to strike the guy down. Almost immediately, another member of his gang rushed out and saw that he had saved the day, as the guy would have gone on to alert authorities. The next day, after the robbery, when they were sharing the spoils, they congratulated Alfred and failed him for being fearless. Then they decided that henceforth, his name would become Fearless. During this time, his cult group was fighting a war with another rival group, and they were on the verge of losing. So when Fearless found out that their leader was dating his lodge mate and secretly visited her some nights to hide out, he plotted on how he would attack him. He told some of his cult members, who disguised themselves into the lodge and waited. Around 11 p.m., when the leader of their rival court entered their lodge, they first shot the other two guys who came with him, while Fearless broke into the room where the rival leader was. The guy tried to fight his way out but was outnumbered. Fearless beat him with an iron rod to get information from him until he almost passed out. From the information he got, they chained him there and went ahead for a shootout where they stole the armory of their rival gang, thus weakening and rendering them without ammunition. This sent shockwaves to the rival gang, and they begged for peace. But Fearless's gang gave them a price to pay, and after some negotiations, they paid it with an open apology. This gave their cult more street credibility as well as strong status on campus. Due to the actions of Fearless, they now had more confidence in him and engaged him in more activities. As the days went by, he continued to show potential, fighting rival cult members that were dreaded, carrying out smooth robbery operations, and raising the red flag of their cult high. He was a rookie that had more impact than many who had been in the game for long. It didn't take long before he was made the second in command of his cult group. Soon his name spread round campus, and he got feared and respect more than he anticipated. As the name of Fearless began to spread on campus, it got into his head. From someone who just wanted to be a low-key cultist to someone who was now rolling with the big boys. Guys he used to dread now respected him, and even girls he wouldn't dream of talking to wanted to sleep with him. He hardly goes for classes, but when he does, lecturers treat him like a mini-god, while his course mates offered to help him in any way possible just to be associated with him. But there were those who didn't like him, of course, and those who would do anything to gun him down. He was like a fire that would either burn others down or get quenched. When it was time for his final exams before he would graduate, Fearless began to make plans to throw a big party. It was normal for final-year cultists to be targeted during their exams, especially their final paper, but Fearless was sure no one would dare come his way. He thought that aside from his atrocities, which should send cold shivers down the spine of anyone who would think about crossing his path, he also had some of his guys be on standby, in case anyone dared come close. On the day of his final exam, there was high security personnel on campus. Because of the history of what usually happens, the school authority has invited the police to help the school security officers with maintaining law and order. Just after Fearless finished his exams and stepped out of his hall, over 20 of his gang members came to usher him out. They screamed his name as they hailed him on successfully graduating. Then they marched outside the school to celebrate. They had been at a popular bar just outside the school campus when gunshots were heard from inside the school. They bragged that other cultists would attack themselves, but none would be brave enough to come close to them. And just as they were saying it, several gunshots fired in their direction. In a matter of seconds, there were dead bodies littered in the bar, with many injured. They tried to fire back, but because they were caught unawares, there was really nothing they could do. As Fearless tried to escape through the back entrance, he was cornered by 3 guys. "You remember me? They ask you, do you remember me?" The guy asked Fearless as he shot Fearless on the leg. "You remember the guy you shot by the bush path along Malembe Road? The one who begged you, saying he was an only child. Do you remember?" The angry guy continued to ask Fearless, as the memory of that night came like flashlights to him. It was the night he committed his first murder. "Well, that was my cousin you killed. He was not just an only child, but my best friend. A life for a life. I am here to take your life as well," he said. As he pointed the gun on the head of Fearless, the sound of siren was heard just a few meters away. This caused a slight distraction, and the bullet which should have sunk into the skull of Fearless was fired into his shoulder. They fired another shot at him before running away. Fearless felt dizzy and closed his eyes in total darkness. 2 days later, when he opened his eyes, he saw that he was in a hospital and was handcuffed to the bed. After he was shot, the police caught some of the guys and later found his body. They thought he was dead and put his body at the back of their van. It was when he was taken to the mortuary that the attendant confirmed he was not dead, before he was taken to the hospital for treatment and was revived. Few weeks later, he was transferred to a police cell and was later tried in court, where he was eventually sentenced to 2 years in prison for cult-related activities. In court, fearless now, Alfred saw the disappointment in the eyes of his parents, and he knew he had failed them. The police didn't know of other crimes he committed, just that he was a dreaded cultist, hence why he wasn't tried for murder. In prison, Fearless began to reassess his life. How he had thrown away 5 years in the university for nothing. He now wished he had endured for 1 more year and graduated in peace. Instead, now he was rotting in a stinking cell with people who could kill for as little as a candy bar. These 2 years in jail was the longest 2 years of his life. A day felt like 1 week, and 1 week felt like a month. He was not built for his type of life, but he had to pay the price for his actions. He was lucky they couldn't tie any of the killings to him, else he would have spent the rest of his life in jail. He swore that if he comes out alive, he would beg his parents for forgiveness and turn a new leaf. During that period, so many people visited them in prison, but there was this particular group that stood out. Not only did they supply prisoners with food and clothing, but also listened to them and gave advice on how they can better their life in and out of prison. During this time, fearless now Alfred got close to one of the visitors. He was not only a moral and psychological support, but also a spiritual one. He listened to the story of Alfred and gave him advice on how to be a better person, as well as how he could fit back into society when released. He also reintroduced Alfred to Jesus, and he gave his life to God. He was now a devoted child of God in prison, and was determined to continue on the right path after he leaves jail. They then made plans on how Alfred would join their support group when released and share his story so others could learn. This gave Alfred so much joy and hope. Now his ordeal would not be in vain, but would be used to better the lives of others. After 2 years in prison, Alfred was released and reintegrated into society. After getting his life back, he decided it was time to use his experience in life to touch lives positively. He now goes from school to prison, churches, societies, and anywhere that needs help to share his story with them, thus helping them not make the same mistakes he made, but follow a better path in life where they can make positive impact in society. If you enjoyed this story by UmehWrites, please like, share, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more. Thank you.